Hello and welcome to another edition of Fridays with Phil at US Black Chambers, Inc. I'm your host, Philip W. Dunn, Program Manager here at USBC. On behalf of our President, Ron Busby, our board, and our staff, I want to welcome you to this special program today. Now, I'm very excited to bring a very special guest to you all today. My guest today is Nailah Ellis of Ellis Isle. Now, before I introduce Nailah, I want to share some information about the USBC. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the US Black Chambers, Inc. We provide a committed visionary leadership and advocacy in the realization of economic empowerment. We do this through the creation of resources and initiatives, and we support a network of African-American chambers of commerce and business organizations in their work of developing and growing Black enterprises. So please visit our website at usblackchambers.org to learn more about the work that we do. Also at the USBC, we have a Buy Black platform. And at the Buy Black platform, it's our mission to create meaningful economic opportunities for Black people through Black businesses in our communities. Now, we realize this goal by building bold tools and strategic partnerships that enable Black enterprises to grow and to thrive. So please visit buyblack.us to learn more about our business directory. We also have a certification program which offers to certify Black-owned businesses in order to capture opportunities from corporate America. Now, without further ado, our special guest is Nailah Ellis. Nailah Ellis is the epitome of perseverance and pride. From a very young age, Nailah had a desire to make an impact on her community and build a legacy for her family. She began making her famous family-inspired Ellis Isle Teas in her kitchen in 2008. Take note of that date, 2008. And for years, she sold the teas from the trunk of her car. Ellis Isle is currently the largest Black-owned beverage company in the United States today. Ellis Isle and some of the new flavors are more than just drinks to Nailah. They are genuine connections to her heritage. Her recipes are derived from a Jamaican sweet tea, which is passed down from her great-grandfather who migrated through Ellis Island to America in the early 1900s. His culinary skills were widely recognized, and he was named the head chef for Marcus Garvey's Black Star line, which is a very historic piece of information there. Now, Nailah has been rewarded for her entrepreneurial greatness with recognition that includes Forbes Under 30 list, Detroit Demo Day, the Route 100, Magic Johnson's Playbook, 32 Under 32, and the Black Chamber of Commerce's Entrepreneur of the Year, just to name a few. Now, in addition to this, Nailah was the winner of BET's Queen Boss reality TV series, and we have the Queen Boss here today. Nailah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. That was one hell of an intro. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Phil.
Well, definitely so glad that you could make it here today and could be here with our audience. Now, I want to get started. I know we don't have a lot of time on this particular interview, but I've got to just ask you straight out. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with Ellis Isle.
Well, I started out, and you told a lot of it in that intro, but I'll give the personal side. So I started out at the age of 19 as a college dropout. So I had this original grand plan, and I was to go to college, get a business degree, and then get this high-paying job on Wall Street. And I would work there for a few years and save all my money. And then I would quit that job and go after my true dream, which has always been entrepreneurship. However, freshman year, first semester, I realized how student loans work. I went to Howard in DC, and I realized how student loans work. I would have graduated north of 100 grand in debt, and that just did not sit well with me. And so I figured I was young enough, at least this is the story that I told my family just to keep them from being concerned about me. So I was young enough to leave school, and then if things didn't work out, I could always come back, but I knew I wasn't coming back. And so left school, never looked back. I moved back into my mother's basement in Detroit, and then the trial and error began there. And so with this family recipe, which was passed down by my great grandfather, it had never been written down before me. And so I flew to New York, and which is where my father was living at the time. The recipe ended up in his hands. And so I mustered up the courage to ask for it. And he gave it to me like this. I'll never forget. a couple lemons, couple limes, some oranges, and then some tea bags. And there you have the recipe. And so for this unnamed tea at the time. And so went back to Detroit, super excited, went to the store and I got a 5-gallon stock pot, and then got some tea bags. And everybody knows a watched pot never boils. And I sat over that stove and watched that pot. It felt like days. It felt like it took days for that to come to a boil. And that was where I made my very first batch. And that's where it all started. And then fast forward a little more, I started selling tea on the streets of Detroit out the trunk of my car. And then I ended up getting distribution through Whole Foods. Once I started with one Whole Foods store in Michigan, and then bring us forward to today. We just built this whole company on trial and error, and I am the largest Black-owned beverage manufacturer in the country.
Wow, just listening at that story, I'm kind of getting chills, right? Because you go to this prestigious university where you're pretty much guaranteed success if you graduate from Howard University, but then there's also the debt component, the student loan debt. And so you decided, I'm going to go back home and I'm going to try this thing out. You know, there had to be something compelling. How did you know that you were going to be successful, you know, going back home? Did you ever think that you would achieve this type of success?
Yes, I've always known that I was going to achieve whatever level, any level of success. For one, down to the definition of my name, I felt like I was born for this. So Nailah is Swahili. It means one who succeeds. And so in living out my destiny and just once I learned what the meaning of my name was, I was very young, maybe 6 or 7. And once I learned that that was the definition of my name, I felt like I was born for this and I had no choice but to be successful. And so in leaving school, I consciously eliminated all cushion, meaning there was no plan B. There was no alternative. This was the only way. So I dedicated my life to figuring it out, like figuring out my freedom, figuring out how to achieve success.
And I've heard that term when you say you give yourself no option. I've heard that term they're called burning the boats, right? You
Yeah.
go to an
Yeah.
island and you got to take the island, you got to burn the boats, right? Because
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
other way.
Mhm.
Uh, wow, I still got the chill. So, but let's proceed on because now you've got this product, you perfected it, you started, you know, working and selling it out of the trunk of your car. Can you tell us, were there any type of programs that you leveraged in order to help navigate, you know, the rest of the business journey?
So there was a program early on that Michigan State had. It was called the Product Development Center. So I
Mhm.
did work with them early on too, and they helped me with nutrition facts, how to get a barcode on the packaging, what language to use on like the granular, detailed steps that I needed to take. I received a lot of help from the Michigan State Product Development Center. And then along the way, I've always been very resourceful. So there's been like a ton of organizations that I have participated in, and just soaking up all the knowledge that I can and just putting pieces to the puzzle together along the way.
Okay, so and I want to kind of spend a little bit of time on this because you knew that you had the product down, but
Yeah.
you knew that there was this other information you had to go and get. And a lot of our entrepreneurs, they're in the same boat, right?
Mhm.
They've got a great process, they've got a great product or service, but then they don't reach out. And so you're telling us, hey, go out, look for those resources, whether it's at the chamber or elsewhere, to
Mhm.
help you get to the next level, right?
Yeah, you got to be resourceful. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. All right. So this next question I got to ask, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs, they have those great ideas, great, you know, processes, programs, but then they suffer a setback and then that's it. You know, they drop the business, right? Did you encounter that? What was that like? And then how did you overcome those obstacles?
So, entrepreneurship, I would say, is the hardest path that one can choose. And it early on in making this decision to move forward, I looked myself in the mirror and asked the question: if there was no such thing as money, but you have to work, Naila, what are you going to do? Entrepreneurship is something that I would do for free all day. In fact, I did it. Like I've only been on payroll for about a year now. And up until that point, up until payroll, it was me dedicating my life, rolling up my sleeves, doing all this for free. It was more than the money. And you have to just be clear on what the motivation is and what the true agenda is. And if motivation is money, it's going to be a quick, like you said, there are people who run into that first obstacle, and then they quit. It just depends on what the motivation is. My motivation has always been love. I'm guided by love versus fear. And so this is something that I'm very passionate about. This is something that I love to do. And so there is no obstacle that can come before me that I'm not going to figure out how to navigate through.
Right. So I like that too, because now you're speaking to the why. Why am I in this?
Yeah.
And then you also have a strong legacy, and a strong connection to your heritage, to your ancestry. And I think that is something that's pretty powerful as well. I wish we could bottle that up and sell it, because I think that that's something that a lot of us need. Now, I want to talk to you about, Women's Entrepreneurship, or Women's History Month is coming up in March, and we're starting to see more women emerge as business leaders. And what can you attribute this new emergence to that we're seeing today?
So is it that women are new to leadership, or is it that we're just now starting to be recognized? I think women have been kicking ass and taking names since the beginning of time, and we're just now starting to hear about it, and people are starting to drop different stats, like Black women are the largest growing group of entrepreneurs. But I mean, we've been entrepreneurial, we've been creative, we've been resilient. I think that there's been a lot of noise, and I just think that the Black community as a whole has been pushed to the point where we got fed up. And I think with the George Floyd incident, I think we finally got to a point where we started to be heard. And women have been at the forefront of a lot of different movements, if you will. And I just think that it's not that it's newly emerging. I think that we're just now hearing about it.
Right. You mentioned a key word to me that I love to hear, and that's community. And whether it's the Black community, your online community, can you tell us a little bit about how your community has supported your journey along the way?
Mainly through energy transfer. I've had a ton of support along the way. It's not always well, let me come to Detroit, let me roll up my sleeves and get in the plant with you. It's a big piece of support has been product awareness, getting on the bullhorn and spreading the word about what it is that I'm doing, and sharing my story, and cheerleading and rooting for me. That type of energy transfer has fueled me, and it's very necessary. And so I would say that as far as the community, my community has always been very supportive, and not just the Detroit community, all around. This organization, this group, I don't remember how you and I met, but I remember it was years ago. And I feel like I got a call from you.
Yeah.
And then it was from day one, it was, how can we support? And what can we do? And I see all the time where you're sharing stuff, you're sharing news, and you're making people aware, not about just my product, but a lot of other Black-owned companies as well. And that's all very helpful because it gives people that awareness. And when we know about Black products, we support, we go and we buy. And so it's been through spreading the word. That's been a major piece of support.
No, so I definitely, understand community is everything. It's key. They drive support. They drive demand for your product.
Yeah.
They help to generate awareness. All of those great things. And yes, I do remember cold calling you when I started the Black Business Focus Group many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate you for taking that call. I've been a big fan ever since.
I
Uh,
appreciate you for making that call because it's been very, very helpful.
Thank you, thank you. All right, now I've got to ask you just a couple of quick questions about your product now. So tell us how you first got, when you first got that first deal to get into stores. How did you make that happen?
So for Whole Foods, because that was my first major account, I walked into a Whole Foods that was in the Metro Detroit area, and I was beyond nervous, and because I didn't know the process. And as far as getting product on the shelf, I just went to the beverage cooler and I saw a guy putting drinks on the shelf, and I said, "Okay, here's my moment. This is the guy that I'm supposed to approach." So I just walked up to him, and I had a little lunch bag cooler in my hand with some chilled product in it, and I said, "Hey, I hear a lot about Whole Foods being focused on supporting local. Can you show me any local drinks in the cooler?" That was my like opening line. And I knew they didn't have any. And so he said, "Well, I don't think any of these are made locally." And I said, "Well, I think we need to fix that because you guys talk a lot about supporting local, and I don't see any local drinks. And I just so happen to be a local beverage manufacturer. And I'm wondering what steps need to be taken to get on the shelves." And I pulled out a bottle of Ellis Isle tea and handed it to him, and he laughed. And I wasn't sure whether I laugh with him or cry. I was humiliated because my label at the time was a Vistaprint business card. It was just a business card with my name and number taped to the side of the bottle. I had no nutrition facts, no barcode. I didn't even think about all of the things that were required to be on the bottle when it's on the shelf. And so he took the bottle and he laughed, and he pointed out all the things that I didn't have and all the reasons that the product could not be on the shelf. And so I was just taking mental notes, and I asked him, "Okay," I said, "Okay, well, can you guide me is there like an application? What's the process to get started?" And so he gave me a link to an online application. And then it began there. And then I went and took mental note of all the things he laughed at and said I didn't have. And I went and figured out how to get those things. And that's where I ran into the product development center. And I just did the work and figured out, I got the nutrition facts, I got the ingredient list, I got the barcode. And then along the years, whatever we learned that we didn't have, we figured out how to add it. And then we grew from there. And so Whole Foods was my first major retail experience. And then that's how I started getting into retail. And then we just continued to practice that. To this day, I've been in major retailers: Kroger, Meijer, Sam's Club, Costco, Whole Foods, and
Target,
there's some that I'm not, Target,
Amazon.
yeah, Amazon, and all of those have been through that same process from my very first store, just walking in or calling. Cold calling is still a thing, and just asking what is the process to get a shot at being on the shelf.
And nobody got hurt, right? You went in there, you were nervous,
Right.
you asked the question, and from that interaction with a person who was just stocking the shelves, not even a decision maker, maybe even at the time, right? And then you took that information, took it back to the lab. You already had the product. Now
Yeah.
you just got to get the packaging around it and process the application. So these are the stories that I think our people need to hear, because there are folks out there that will hear the no, or they'll hear all the criticism of their product, and then that's the very end. They won't go any further.
Mhm.
So definitely appreciate that. And then a question just popped in the chat.
Mhm.
Someone wants to know, hey, I'm in a location. We don't have Ellis Isle products. How do I request it? What do I need to do as a consumer to get it on our shelves?
So if there are no Targets around that have the product, you can always go to Amazon.com. And so very happy about being able to have distribution with Amazon because it just makes the product a lot more accessible. But you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Amazon Fresh as well, and that's nationwide.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Nailah, we have just time just for a couple more questions. Out of respect for your time, I'm going to try to get you out of here.
Okay.
I do have to ask, there's a couple of more community-based questions I want to ask. And for our community in particular, why is it important to support Black-owned businesses at this day and age? And you alluded to George Floyd earlier. We are kind of, fed up with the way things are going, but why is it important to have that community support?
So we have to, if we're not supporting ourselves, no one is going to support us like we do. And when you look at Black entrepreneurs, and who they hire, Black people hire Black people. And so looking at job creation, we that speaks to that. So job creation within our community is very important. And Black entrepreneurs hire Black people. And then as far as just looking at the complete circle, when we make products, those products have to sell. And if we're going to be buying certain things anyway, like everybody goes shopping, but when we buy Black owned products specifically, it helps our community, and it is our responsibility, no one else's, to make sure that our community is supported. And so it's just like, I'm going to flip the question back. Why is it important to support Black businesses? Why not? Like, my question back is, why not? Why would we not support Black owned businesses?
No, I love that. But I agree. I think, we stand shoulder to shoulder with any other community, any other set of businesses. And, there's nothing that that should prevent us from supporting Black-owned businesses. And then one thing that I love too, your product is universal. Everybody drinks, Ellis Isle Teas. So it's made for everyone, but we certainly need that support from our community so that we can compete with other products.
And that's another thing. We're very fed up with how things have gone. Everything always goes back to slavery. And there's been evolution. But the root cause of a lot of our issues in our community is slavery. And looking at today, yes, we're all very frustrated, but when you look at us as a group, we don't really own anything. So we'll have like celebrities that get these endorsement deals. And so we'll put our face on things, and our culture is cool, and we lend our culture away. But then when you look at supply chain, and when you look at who's actually at the table and has ownership, we really don't own anything. And so it's very important to expand in that area of Black ownership. And the only way to do that is supporting Black businesses, Black owned services, Black owned products. We have to grow in that area. And the only way we're going to do that is by supporting Black businesses.
Perfect answer. And I'm going to get to the last two questions here. Talking about the U.S. Black Chamber, I wonder if you can share some of the benefits of Black chambers across the country in helping to amplify the importance of Black entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think it's very necessary. And it's, as far as amplifying, that's the Black chambers, that's who's spreading the word, as far as like people, I feel like, have the desire to support Black and buy Black, and where we go to get that information is our Black chambers. And so I think it is very important as far as amplifying.
All right, perfect. And then this last question, I got to know more about the products. Me and my daughter got into like a little tussle over the last bottle of tea. And so now, we got a problem in the household, right? Because everybody wants to drink the tea now. So tell us a little bit more about, future products that we can look forward to down the road.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the innovation that we have in the pipeline, and we are launching a cold press cane juice line, and that should hit shelves this year and be accessible this year. And so, what we've done is found a way to give people flavor without the added sugar. And so the major problem we have in the beverage set is that consumers have to choose between health and flavor. You either get one or the other. So like your Honest Teas of the world, it's super healthy, but it lacks flavor. It tastes, well, I'm not going to talk bad about them. It lacks flavor. And then you've got your Milos or your Arizona Teas of the world, which taste really good, but it's loaded with processed sugar. And so with our cold pressed cane juice line, all of our drinks moving forward will be sweetened with just cold pressed cane juice. And cane juice is actually the main ingredient in processed sugar. They just take the cane and over process it. So they cook out all the nutrients and then they bleach it and they add chemicals, and your body reacts to it like a drug. And with cane, it's literally the juice from a grass, and it's super sweet. It tastes really good, and it's loaded with health benefits. It's got more electrolytes than Gatorade. It's got antiviral properties. It's type 2 diabetic friendly. I can go on a whole tangent about the health benefits of cane juice, but it's super healthy, and that's all we are sweetening with. And so and it tastes absolutely amazing. All the drinks that we have coming, and so you guys can look for that this year and follow us along on this journey. Our Instagram, by Ellis Isle, so BYELLISISLE, and then that's across all social media. So for Facebook, Twitter, all the social media channels you can keep up with us on there just to follow when we'll be launching that cold pressed cane juice line.
Awesome. We'll be sharing that information. And then in our last couple of seconds, is there anything that you want to share with our audience about entrepreneurship, about business, about life, about family? What can you share?
I'll share some books that I've read that have been very helpful along the way in this entrepreneurial journey. So for women, I'm looking at my bookshelf. A Radical Awakening was a life-changing read for me, by Dr. Shefali. That's for women specifically. Seed of the Soul is a universal book that I think every human should read, whether they're going for entrepreneurship or not. That was a life-changing book for me. Becoming Supernatural, by Joe Dispenza. That was a life-changing book for me. The Alchemist was one that I just read. These have all been very helpful on my entrepreneurial journey. So that's a few books to name that have just been very helpful in guiding me in this lonely journey of entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Awesome. Nailah Ellis of Ellis Isle, I want to thank you on behalf of our president, Ron Busby, our board, our staff, our chamber, and our business members. We thank you for this time today, and we wish you continued success, and we look forward to so much more from you in the future.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate you guys for having me on.
Thank you. Happy Friday.